I couldn't really think of a good way to open season 2, so... No, don't click off, don't click off! Okay, guys, welcome back to the first episode of season 2 of Stars and Garters. Incredible, crazy. We're going to do some insane new things with the podcast. You will not believe your ears. I'm just kidding. It's going to be the exact same thing, with the exception of I am pondering adding, instead of just random fandom Fridays, I'm thinking we might also do some, I don't know, I haven't decided on a good name yet, but for now the placeholder name is Random Serious Fridays, or something like that, where I, actually talk about something serious, from the Bible. So that could be fun, so hopefully we can get that done. And then also, I think that at the end of the week, on the Random Fandom Friday, or Random Serious Friday, if that happens, I will just tell you guys what the most prevalent fandoms I have been thinking of this week, because it changes from week to week, so I will let you guys know about that at the end of the week. Alright, so I thought for a long time, and I've waited for a long time to record this, because I couldn't think of, a good opening episode for season 2. Because it's not the most important and incredible thing ever, but, you gotta have, a good pilot. It's just nice, it's a good thing to do. But, and I had, a few outlines that I wanted to eventually do episodes of, but they weren't, very, they were kind of niche, they're kind of niche interests, and it didn't feel like a very good pilot episode, I guess. So, but I thought, so I was thinking, and this thought, crazily enough, actually came from a scholarship essay I wrote, and it was this, debated topic, and they were pick your favorite one out of these options, and write an essay on it. I think I wrote a really good essay on it, by the way, but I didn't win, and the winning essay kind of sucked. But anyway, we're not talking about that right now. We're not talking about my financial problems. We're talking about this episode. So I decided to try to tackle, in the first episode of season 2, to try to tackle a hotly debated Marvel topic. And I think this is one that, even some milder fans have some pretty strong opinions on. Of course, I don't know, but, if you're, a hardcore Marvel fan, you definitely have a firm and probably intense opinion that you might fight people over for this topic. And the topic that I am speaking about is who played the best Spider-Man. Now, we're not including, animated voiceover versions or, any... We're talking about the big three, the ones you think of. We're talking about Toby, Andrew, and Tom, because that's the ones that the people know. And we're not gonna try to be unique and be actually, I think the John Mulaney, who voiced Spider-Ham, played the best. No. We're just gonna focus on the big three, and I'm going to tell you who I think did the best job portraying Peter Parker out of all these three. And yes, there is a freaking scholarship based on who you think the best Spider-Man is. It's only $500, but still, it's pretty funny. And it was fun to write this essay. I wrote a really good essay, guys. So I was a little bit sad, but it's okay. Everything's fine. College will happen, hopefully, still. But anyway, let's jump right into this debate. So, you have, dedicated fans for each side of this debate. You have the people who are you can't beat the classic, which is a terrible argument for anything, by the way. They're you can't beat the classic, the original. You have to go with Tobey Maguire. And they like how he is a little goofy, and how he's a classic, and they like all those things about him. Some people enjoy Andrew Garfield. He really brought out the geekiness of him and like that aspect, and also he was very like tenacious in his portrayal of Peter. And then of course you have the Gen Zers chanting for Tom Holland because he's very youthful, very charming, all of those things. So in the end, I'm just gonna come out and say it. For me, it is Tom Holland. I do believe that Tom Holland portrayed the best version of Peter Parker on the big screen. Now, let me, first of all, debunk some ideas that you might be having right now. Hopefully not. But one, like, you might be saying, oh, you're just saying that because he's hot or whatever. Okay, first of all, is he hot? Irrelevant. Second of all, like, Andrew Garfield's not bad either. So that's just entirely irrelevant argument. I actually have real reasons excuse me, real reasons why I think that Tom Holland did the best Peter Parker. So I don't really have a problem with Maguire or Garfield. They didn't like offend me in any way that they portrayed Spider-Man. But they both had kind of like little things that kind of turned me off a little bit and didn't fully get the Spider-Man vibe for me. So for Toby, it was his portrayal of Peter. So when he was Spider-Man, he did a really, really good job as that. He made him look like a admirable hero, and he like jumped into situations and was really good at the superhero aspect. But when he was Peter, he was just too goofy for me. Like he was like kind of like a caricature almost. It was too much at times. Like there's I mean the only proof you need for this statement, like, Bully Maguire. There you go. But also, like, when he's holding the train back and his face looks like he's, uh, it's just an unpleasant face he makes. And he just feels a little goofy sometimes, a lot of the times. And then for Garfield, it's like the exact opposite. He really, I feel like, kind of nailed the Peter side of it, because he was very like geeky. He was very intelligent, and he did that very well for me. And then he was like charismatic. He did all that. The Peter side was really good, but his Spider-Man just like kind of was a little bit lame for me. He just didn't really seem as heroic to me. He didn't get enough moments to shine. It was like, Peter is this nerdy guy, great, but then like Spider-Man, he just comes and fights people, and it didn't really like hit for me. And so that brings us to Timothy, who I say did the best. So obviously, because I feel that Maguire played Spider-Man really well, but struggled to portray Peter, and Garfield played Peter really well, but didn't really land the Spider-Man for me. I think that Tom Holland does the best of bringing them both together, playing a really good, nerdy, intelligent, neurotic little kid, Peter, and then also bringing the really heroic and strong and admirable Spider-Man to it. So, like, when you first see him in Captain America, you can tell that like he gets who this character is. Like, he's still a kid, which is how he's introduced. Obviously, he's grown up, but like in the comics, this is who he is. He was a kid. He was at least a teenager. He's very young. I believe like in the MCU, they said he was like 14 or 15. I'm not sure, but he's very young. He's still a teenager, and he doesn't really know what he's doing with life, and he doesn't really understand how life goes that much, and he struggles in like he's a nerdy kind of kid, and he's a little awkward, but he's also very like intelligent and very capable. And Tom Holland shows us that like right off the bat when you see Peter, and you can tell that he understands who Peter is, just like a nerdy kid who is really smart but is not the most popular or I don't know what the word is, but he's the nerd, and then but then when he talks about his abilities in that scene as well. He doesn't become Spider-Man, but you see that like he just really wants to use the abilities to help people. Like he doesn't understand how like what they are. He's not fully great at it. He's just again like he does a very good job of like he's just a kid, but he's really trying to use this like crazy powers that he has, and he doesn't even understand like how crazy they are. He's just trying to use them to do what he thinks is right. And he brings just a really great youthful and like let me help people energy like just all throughout that. But then when he jumps into the airport fight as Spider-Man, Hey Underoos, and he just comes in and swings in and grabs the shield and everything, which is an amazing moment and makes me happy every time. But besides that, you just see him. He's still. There's plenty of moments where you're like, okay, he's still like this nerd kid, but he's like he's ready. He's ready to be Spider-Man. Okay, he's like it's a very interesting moment to introduce him as because it's a hard moment for like Spider-Man because he wants to do what is right and he doesn't really know what is right in this situation because he's just been brought in by Tony and just told like, "Hey, fight for me." But that is what he is fighting for. And so now like Tom brings the energy of like, "Okay, this is what I have been told to do. This is what seems right, so I am going to fight for it and I'm going to do the best that I can." And it's just he does an amazing job of playing both of the sides from the very first movie he's in, and he didn't like it wasn't even that he got the best Spider-Man situation because it wasn't about him, but he still does a very like great job portraying who Peter is. And then of course he gets his own movies, and that's where he just kind of pops off and everything. Even though like I mean I think they were all great, but like Far From Home didn't hit for everybody. But even in that one, like Tom's performance is so good, and he just really understands who Peter is because you get to see the Peter side. You get to see him grow. He never stops being intelligent. He never stops being a little bit of a nerd and like a little bit awkward. He has his bully and he's got his really small group of friends, and that's who Peter Parker is. He's not the popular guy. He's the nerd, and he saw Holland really brings that out and understands that part. But then every time he's Spider-Man, especially in Homecoming, he just lands a great moment there where he's like trapped under all the rubble and he pushes it off and says, "Come on, Spider-Man." That's just an awesome moment because he understands who Peter is when he's Spider-Man. He's like determined and he's very like strong and just willing to do what it takes to like make things right, and that's very who Spider-Man is, and just Holland very much understands that about Spider-Man. Even in Far From Home, which I still thought was a pretty cool movie, he still does that. And then of course in No Way Home he just brings out all of the acting chops because that movie is incredible. Like it's my second favorite movie of all time. If you didn't know, I did an episode on that. Go watch it. And it's an incredible movie, and he just gets the most acting moments, like where Aunt May dies, and you get to see this side where it's like it's like when the Peter Parker and the Spider-Man get a little mixed up because now he's just like so angry that he's like, okay, I'm not about to use this power to be Spider-Man. I'm going to get revenge for what has happened to me personally. And he didn't care about being for a hero, which is something that Spider-Man is definitely vulnerable to because he cares about people so much. So that he did so good with that. And then of course he just pulled off the core like Peter personality in the end when he makes the decision to make everybody forget about him. That's just a very Spider-Man Peter thing to do, just completely selfless and very admirable and strong and all of those things. He just lands it so well in every single one. And I know that Maguire and Garfield just they didn't have the same opportunities, I guess, to really shine as Peter. I mean, Tobey Maguire got 3 movies, but still, like, Tom Holland had, like, a whole universe that he was a part of and other stories to connect to, And I understand that was a little bit difficult, and then Andrew Garfield only got 2 movies. So, but still, it's just in these, even though they do fine Spider-Man stories, it's like they just struggle to really get who Peter is just as Peter, and then who he is as Spider-Man, and how those two like relate to each other, and how he deals with those two sides of him. And then Tom Holland in all 3 of his movies, even though he's part of a bigger universe, you still get to see him like really show you who Peter is and how he deals with these situations, and it's really good, and I think he does the best out of all of them. Again, no beef with Maguire or Garfield. They did fine, and truth be told, I haven't seen those movies in quite a bit. But I just I don't remember anything. Like, they don't particularly stand out, and I don't remember them as well. But the Spider-Man movies are like some of my favorite movies in the whole MCU, because Spider-Man was always supposed to be this character that Tom Holland has made him, like, plays him as in the comics. He's just supposed to be this nerdy kid who doesn't understand everything, but he's got talents and he's got powers, and he's gonna use them the best he can to help the little guy, look out for the little guy. And I think Tom Holland really brought that out and showed that better than the other two, which even though like they're it's even though obviously the MCU is a completely separate entity from the comics at this point, they still it's still important that they don't just like take a character and completely change who they are at its core from the comics, because they're still based on it. And even though they adapt storylines and all of that is fine, but like understanding like the core of who this character is when they were first created and you didn't make them, and like bring them out as they were first meant to be, is very important, I feel like. And I think that Tom Holland just does the best, and he gets it. And I mean, I don't know how old Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield were when they did theirs, because I guess it helps that Tom Holland is younger, but he's still like older than Peter. But you just, when you see him acting as Peter, you like feel that this is a kid, and he is just trying his best sometimes, but his life is really weird. But he's just trying to do what he can to be a good guy and help out. So yeah, in conclusion of my argument, I guess, I think that Tom Holland did the best, because the other two just kind of struggled to harmonize. Peter and Spider-Man felt like different people, and they didn't work well together. One or the other was just a little off for me. But for Tom Holland, both when he was as Peter and when he was Spider-Man, they felt completely together, felt in sync, and they felt right for the character, and it was just all done very well, and everything meshed together, and you get to see both Peter and Spider-Man and both of those parts of him grow, and you can still see how this is the same character and how he's growing both of these different aspects of who he is. And Tom Holland just very clearly shows that for us, I think, much better than the other two. And I know that, I don't even think anybody in my family even agrees with me. So I know that it's, you like the classics. I've heard very few arguments for Andrew Garfield, unfortunately. Which I feel like, because the Peter aspect is so important to me, I feel like I would pick Garfield over Maguire, honestly, if we were ranking. But that's not what we're doing. I'm just saying, if I was to think about it, I'd most likely choose Garfield over Maguire. I mean, Tom Holland would always be number one. But it's I haven't heard like any arguments for Andrew Garfield, which I feel is a little weird. But I know that a lot of people are like, you have to have the original. The original was Tobey Maguire. Nobody can beat the original. But you're wrong, and that's a terrible argument, and I hate it. But besides that, I'm just saying, like, just because it's the classic doesn't mean somebody can come along and do it different and do it good as well. So, I have no beef against those who disagree with me. I'm just saying, do you love him because he's the classic? Which, I mean, honestly, it doesn't really matter. If you like Tobey Maguire because he's classic, like, go for it. I don't really care. But if you do want to think big brain about it, like, do you like him because he's the classic, or do you like a specific reason he portrayed Spider-Man? Like, just think about that. I mean, you don't have to have a whole argument for it. It's fine if you just like him because you do. That's cool. Whatever. But if you do want to think about it, think about that. And if you like Garfield, I just haven't heard enough of the arguments to see anything that people like go to about him because nobody ever argues for him. So I feel kind of bad for him. But if you like Garfield, honestly, I would like to hear you say things about that because I think he gets way too little credit for what he did. Because again, his Peter was very good. I felt like he understood the Peter part very well, and the movies are also pretty good, if I remember them. I mean, I enjoyed them, so yeah. so just, I mean, you can have different opinions. I don't care, but tell me why. And that brings us to the end of the first episode of season 2. It was a little short. It wasn't that much because I don't have a whole dissertation on it. I do think of other things. I do have other things that I do with my life, you guys. But so thank you guys for watching, and thank you for tuning in to season 2. I hope you will continue to watch, and I hope you like my new intro because that's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that, and I guess my new outro as well, which will be the exact same thing. So, and make sure to do all the same things. I'm not going to ask you to do anything new. Just subscribe and follow and share and comment. Comment who your favorite Spider-Man is, obviously, and why. And if you want to be special and say that it was the voice actor or something else that's weird, you go ahead and do that. Just say something and comment and say things, because it's fun for me. And you guys need to do it more. So, but anyway, thank you again for tuning in. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.
Subscribe.